Hey guys, Pete here from Crunch Time Coaching. Today I've got a great video for you because we're going to go over 2 moves that all great modern forehands have. So if your forehand could use a modern makeover, then this is the video for you. Let's get started. All right guys, so let's dive right in. First of all, I got great news for you. If you can get these 2 moves down, you're probably gonna notice a big difference in your racket head speed, which is gonna increase the power in your shot and also the rotation on the ball, which is great. And the other good thing is these 2 moves are pretty simple to do, but you want to pay attention to the very end of this video because what I'm going to be doing throughout the video is explain, okay, here's the move, but there's also some pitfalls along the way. So I'm gonna explain like what the benefits you're going to get and what you got to watch out for that I see a lot of my students make a mistake when they're trying to get these 2 things right. So the first one, which is so important, I recommend that you really practice this a lot at home, is your preparation. I like to think of your preparation, your first move to the ball, as being a gunslinger in the Wild West, where you can just really get it there automatic, the same every time, okay? And that's what you're gonna notice that the pros do, is they prepare the same every single time. And what has changed is back in the day when I was growing up, many of the pros would be in a ready position and then start to point the ball and get the racket back right away. And in fact, that was one of the first tips I had as a kid growing up was rack it back, right? Rack it back. You're not going to hear many coaches these days say rack it back, or at least not without being taught the unit turn. So a player like Jimmy Connors would get his racket back, his arm would be relatively straight, McEnroe, same kind of thing, and they'd get the racket back and then they'd swing and the stroke would be pretty linear, okay? So they'd come here, right through, boom. And the pros are doing something completely different today, and if you look at every single professional, even if they got a little bit of a different style and flair, they're pretty much all doing the same thing. And that is when they see that ball coming, that they're holding on to the racket. Okay, they're holding on to the racket, and it really makes a big difference too. They tend to also have a higher elbow, and their arm is more bent when they bring that racket back. You're not gonna see many professionals that get ready and bring their arm straight back. And why is that? Because they're really loading up their power. They're creating a lot of whip, a lot of racket head speed by doing these couple of moves. I'm gonna break this down for you. But that's the first thing I want you to practice, is get into a ready position, whether you got an Eastern, semi-Western, full Western, even a Continental, but I'd prefer that you would go over to an Eastern or semi-Western grip. That's how you're gonna really modernize that forehand. And practice is getting here and then turning, here and turning. And what is this doing for your forehand? It's really loading up the core, okay? What we wanna do is we wanna be able to whip out of this. So right here, just by holding on the racket as opposed to not holding on the racket, and I'm gonna move the camera here so you can really see the benefit of this. See, so just watch this right here. And that's what's so exciting about this one tip for you guys, is it's very simple to do. Anybody can do this. It's just a matter of turning and holding on the racket as opposed to getting the racket back. Now you see, if I just get the racket back and I'm getting set like this, you see how my shoulders are pretty much square of the ball. I don't have much rotation here in the core, and so there's only so much I can do with that shot. Where when I get here and I load myself up here, look at that, boom, you see that move? I'm turning, I'm twisting my core. That's another thing too. So it's just not a matter of just holding on the racket, get ready. You see, look at the difference between this, I'm holding on the racket, as opposed to this. Now I'm really loading, I'm bringing my weight back to the fence, like my back booty here is pushing back to the fence. The core is loading up. You're gonna start to see my shoulder. This is all gonna help with that momentum and racket head speed into the ball. So that's something you can practice. It's something you have to practice too. Like I would go today and just at least bare minimum, and comment below and let me know you did it. Bare minimum, just do 10 reps. Should take you less than 60 seconds, whether you're in your home, you're on the court. Just do 10 reps of practicing turning and holding on the racket, turning, holding on the racket. Notice too, look how the strings are facing towards the ground here. This is very, very important. So I'm getting set and we want the strings facing towards the ground. And one thing that we keep hearing is that the stroke has a shortened swing cycle. Now I don't want that to confuse you, because the loading is much more aggressive today than it was back when, you know, McEnroe, Connors, Newcomb, those players played. They would have a bigger backswing. Watch this. They'd lots of times have a bigger backswing. You see how the racket's back there? You can see on the other side of my body, but not as much of a load. See that? And they'd more swing, even though they use their hips and everything too, but it would maybe be a little more of the arm and less of the body. Well, today, even though we don't bring that racket to the other side, like this is a no-no to do this. You can see the racket on the other side of my body. That's a no-no. But look, I'm not really loaded here. But what we want to do is we want to make a big move with the body, but we want to keep our racket out to the hitting side of the ball. So we don't want to break this plane back here. So again, look at it from here. I'm getting set right there. So you can see the body's making a big aggressive move. I'm twisting and torquing up my body here, but the racket is staying out here, and then it's going to drop into the slot and then go. So this is something that you should practice over and over again. And then what you can start to do is you can do some shadow swings with that. You can start to feel what the release feels like. Okay, so one of the things that when the old school players are playing, think of it like a pendulum. It was very linear. It's like racket back, racket forward through the ball, racket back, racket forward through the ball. Now, what you can imagine yourself is that you're like a cyclone, like a tornado, right? Where you're like loading yourself up, and it's going to be more of a angular or circular move where you're like racket back, and then you're going to release and come through. Okay, let's try that again. Racket back, release and come through, and that finish might remind you of like more of a baseball swing or a golf stroke, to where you can really see things moving this way, right? But you want to be careful about that. I'm going to explain in a minute why you kind of want to have that combination of thinking of yourself linear and also the rotation, because if you just think all like rotation, angular, circular swing, you're going to tend to hit a lot of mishits, a lot of short balls. I'll explain that in a second. But what I want you to do is just get here, get set, and practice those swings. Get set, now I'll start to practice hitting the ball and putting some spin on it with my Topspin Pro here. Getting right there, set, load up, hit. Let's take a look at some from the side. So again, another homework assignment you can do, just here's some homework, is you can, if you got a Topspin Pro, great. If you don't, no big deal. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to get yourself one. I really love these for visualization to hit the ball. So I'm going to get set, I'm going to hit a couple here. I'm going to make sure I'm getting that ball rolling off the hit. You can see that ball really rolling. So I know I got my topspin here, and then I can take, you know, a couple balls here and then practice holding and stroking that shot. Loading, swinging through the ball. One more. Loading, swinging through the ball. And you really, if you get yourself loaded up here, it feels good to release, you see, and so it's going to enable you that when you're nervous in a match and, you know, you're tight, you don't want to swing through that shot, this almost, it's an energy that you want to combust into the ball. You want to release in that ball because you feel all corked up here, right? When you're here, you feel loaded. You feel like it's got to have a spring release through it. So it's a great way to hit through that ball, especially under pressure, when you develop this habit. Now, one drill I like to do, now you can do this with your tennis racket, but I got this from On Court, Off Court, and it's the wrist racket. And this kind of helps you feel the lag and also helps you feel the energy of the ball because this is weighted a little heavier. And I also like to hear, it's a wiffle ball, I also like to hear the energy going through the ball. So it kind of really helps me feel what I want to do if I'm stroking a modern tennis forehand. So again, I'm going to get here, I'm going to hold on to this right here very lightly. Okay, so if you decide to get yourself one, I'm going to hold on this very lightly. I'm going to put the elbow up. Again, I'll put this link in the description below so you can go get yourself one. I put this up, I'm going to lean back, and then this also helps you feel that wrist lag because the ball's here. Then you see when I drop, it actually will drop back into the slot. So when I come here, boom, get set, and swing, right? You can see that this is bent, but as it's going through, we'll see if we can get it in slow motion, you're going to see that as it's coming through, it's actually coming through this way, right? And that I'm reaching out and then around. So you're going to see how long this actually swings out, and this is going to help you feel that racket going through as long as you want to, instead of coming around too early. You're going to feel this straighten out and then slingshot to the court and then slingshot around. So that's what you want to feel, getting set, boom, right through. And you can really hear it too. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'll get a little closer. Getting set, boom. And that's a fun way. And you get yourself one of these, and then you can get yourself a tennis ball. And when you're doing this, one thing you don't want to see is you don't want to see your ball go way over there. Then you know you're doing it wrong. But if you see it go long or even into the net, I don't think that's a big deal as long as you feel a solid contact. But use that a couple times, and all of a sudden your body feels revved up and ready to go. Then you get set, release, and that actually worked out pretty good. Okay, so that's your first move. Here is a second move, and you just focus on these two moves. Lots of times the middle part, the hitting part's gonna take care of itself, especially when I give you this one tip at the end that you gotta stick around for, because that's the pitfall that you could fall victim to. I've seen so many of my players do this. But now what I want you to think about is, again, if we take a look at more of a traditional swing, where the racket's back, and then reaching forward here, you can still see that the front shoulder is in play here, right? The shoulder that's addressing the ball a lot of times is still in play. What we want to do to more modernize that forehand is that this front shoulder, all of a sudden at the end, is facing more back to the fence. Now this can be dangerous if you're not doing one thing, but it's also going to allow a lot of just power into the ball, or big release into the ball. You're not holding yourself back at all, total natural deceleration. Again, remember, we're loaded up here. The body feels like it wants to spring loose, it wants to go. So I'm getting set, and then if I really allow that to just go, I'm gonna come here, and now when you see I'm done, you can see now that the back shoulder has become the front shoulder. So that's your second move, right? The first move is loading up here, holding on the racket. You can feel all this twist and turn. It wants to uncoil into the ball. And then when I do that and I just allow it to relax and release, now when I'm done, you can see that front shoulder. And if you do that, you'll find that you're going to be hitting a lot of balls with effortless power. This is a big thing that you want to be able to do. But I want you to also think a little, old school with this, in that one of the best tips I've heard is to pretend like you're hitting through 3 balls. So if we imagine that pendulum going and rocking through 3 balls right here, like I'm showing on this graphic, we still want to think like that with our hips and our racket head going through the shot, but then we just don't stop here. We allow it to keep going. If you don't do this, there's a good chance that what's going to happen is that you're going to hit a lot of shanks and a lot of mishits. I see people watch the pros, and so when they're swinging, they're thinking about loading up and then the front shoulder becoming the back shoulder. Then they tend to pull off the ball, and they tend to hit a lot of shanks, a lot of short balls. So what I want you to think about, and I'm even going to play a little clip here of a lesson I took with Rick Macy, who's pretty much given credit for the ATP forehand blueprint. He was telling me the same thing as far as he wanted me to really, we were going to do a traditional step in. It doesn't matter if you're doing a step in or open stance, but he really wanted me to really push my hip forward to the ball, to the court, and then hold it back here. Hold that back toe back, kind of like a golf pro when they're done their swing. Is he had me come here and then boom, really hold that toe back so we can really feel the connection with the ball going forward. Okay. If we're doing open stance, it's the same thing. What we want is I want my hip to attack the camera first rather than attacking the side fence over there. That would be the big mistake, is if I'm just getting here and I'm thinking about getting all this rotation, right, and thinking myself like a cyclone, like a tornado, but if I blow over that way too soon, then the energy's not going to go forward enough. So what I need is when I'm here, I need to come forward first. I need to release that hip forward into the ball, feel the energy go forward, feel that connection, 3 balls through it, and then come through. That's one of the things that maybe you don't see when you're watching the pros play, especially a player like Rafa Nadal. You know, I'm going to show a clip here to where Rafa a lot of times will look like he's got a very short swing and is lifting over his head right away. As you're hearing me talk and watching this, look how long he's actually reaching through the ball before he starts to come around. That front shoulder becomes the back shoulder. So that's super important. Otherwise, you're going to hit a lot of shanks. So what you want to think about is that long connection. You're coming through it and then around, as opposed to just whipping around. If you're just whipping around too early, then you're going to actually hit the ball with less power, less consistency, less control. So make sure that you go out there and you do those 2 moves. You work on your unit turn, and then you work on the front shoulder becoming the back shoulder. If you do that, you're going to start to modernize your forehand. So if you're looking for a total tennis modern makeover, I got a great 5-part series on the modern game of tennis. So I'm going to play a little preview for you, and if you like it, sign up. And if you like this video, definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell. That's the only way you'll be notified that a new video is coming out. And a like is always very much appreciated, and comment with any questions, or at least let me know that you did the drill, and we'll see you on the next video.